here we are at the field. Beautiful day, and I'm really quite excited about this because we're going to go through some it's not A, but B test training. And rather than just demo the B and put the video out for you, what we're going to do is we've got Ron here. Good morning, Ron.
Morning.
Ron has very kindly volunteered to fly his helicopter, and he is actually training for the B test. So what we'll do is we'll demo the manoeuvres themselves, and then after that Ron will fly. And the great thing with this is it's real live flying, so any areas that need a little bit of work can be identified and will be very useful to you. And I thought it's a bit of a different way of doing the video. It's a real life thing rather than just staging it. So nothing staged. We're going to be using the Puma helicopter. The reason we're using this is with the 12S setup and lower head speeds, about 1700, we can get a good 10 minutes flying out of it. Gives us plenty of flight time. So without going on too much, let's get on with it. So here we are in the flying area. Before we go any further, what I wanted to do is just introduce the B test. In the UK, we have two tests. We have an A test, which is your basic level of competency. That allows you to fly at a club, and it means that you're safe to operate the helicopter. And it's a lower level of ability with the flying, but safely, operating the helicopter safely. The B test takes the level to a higher area, where anyone who has their B test, it makes it easier for organisers at shows and competitions. If the competitor or the pilot who's going to be flying has a B test, it means that they have reached a standard where they're competent and safe to fly in front of people and able to cope with a bit more pressure. So let's have a little talk to Ron. How long have you been flying, Ron?
Probably just over 18 months now. 18 months,
so yeah. That's great. So to get to your B test in 18 months is really good.
Good.
And you realise that the B test is a little bit more advanced than the A.
Yes.
And the great thing with the B test is that what it does is it covers every aspect of upright flying. The closest you get to the arrows on a B test are the stall turns, and they get vertical, but they don't go over inverted. So it's almost anything other than inverted flying. Covers every aspect of it. So what's your interest in doing the B test?
Mainly for my own progression in the hobby. I always like to look for the next sort of step up, hence why when I started flying originally, enjoyed it, found that I was struggling with certain elements, which I was lucky enough to then find yourself, which has then helped me immensely over sort of the last year or so. And it's given me more than anything, really, it's given me the confidence to have a go at the B test.
Fantastic. You've hit the nail on the head there. It gives you a direction, it gives you a structure to your learning.
Yeah.
Very often you get to a certain stage and then you think, well, where do I go now, as you've said?
Yes.
So this now will actually give you something to work on at the field. So brilliant, that's really good. If we have a look at the B test, what we're going to do, excuse me, it's a bit nippy out here. If we look at the B test, the structure of it, they've changed it in the last 18 months or so. At one time you would have manoeuvres in order where you could fly circuit style and then come back to hovering. With the manoeuvres now, they've clumped the hovering manoeuvres together. So we will start off in the order. It will be a bow tie to start with. Next you'll have a 4-point pirouette. Then you'll have a top hat. And then you'll have a 20-second nose-in hover, and then next we'll go out into the arrows, which will be a rectangle flown clockwise and anti-clockwise. That's a medium pace manoeuvre. It's not flown super fast. It flies along smoothly, and you fly a rectangular structure, but you've got a nice little curve in the corners of each point in the rectangle. Once you've finished one, you stop and you go back the other way, complete the rectangle the other way round. After that we have the figure of 8, which is flown, it's a banking faster manoeuvre. This gets you used to flying faster. When you fly in the hover, it's very much, or slowly, you're balancing it and hovering round and steering it flat almost. As soon as you get speed up, you need to bank into the turn, and that's where the figure of 8 comes in, where you actually have more speed to it. After the figure of 8, we have stall turn left and right, turning away from ourselves, and then after that we have a 45 descent. So that's the order,
Right.
and we will run to that order. If you practice that, you get into the routine on it.
Okay.
Any questions about that at all?
No, I think there's certain elements that I'm always a little bit more dubious about than others, but that's why it's nice to have someone with you to coach you and advise you when you are going to get into any hassle, perhaps.
Yeah, it's very easy to practice incorrectly.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean your ability is down. It just means that you've learnt it wrong, and therefore you don't pass because it's incorrectly flown. Yeah. So yes, that's quite important. Thing to look out for today when we're at the field would be the conditions. It's quite blustery today. We're sheltered from the trees behind, and it's a southerly wind blowing, which isn't too bad here. But when we get out further and a little bit higher up, the wind will tend to blow the helicopter outwards. So that's something to assess before you do the test, before you actually fly.
Yes.
And get ready for that. Okay, I think we covered most things there. Before we fly the bow tie, we want to have a look at the way the markers are laid out. These are laid out to the BMFA recommendations, and they give you a reference point when you're hovering. It's very easy to practice without markers, and if you do that, what will happen is you don't have any relation to where you're flying. You could be extremely inaccurate. So what we're looking at is when we do these manoeuvres, the altitude will be, I normally say, just slightly above skid's eye level. That's a good reference point. If you say it's going to be 10 feet or 6 feet or 8 feet, it's very hard to work out what that is when you're flying. So just above eye level, skids, that's the way to judge it. Try to keep that constant within the hovering manoeuvres. And then when you're hovering over the markers, we want clean stops. So there's a defined stop before you move to the next point. And when you're over the markers, aim to have the centre of the blades, the mast, over the marker. All right, so now we're going to get on and have a go at the bow tie. I'll demo it and then Ron can fly. All right, you happy with that one?
I am, yes.
All right, here we go then. Having a quick look at the markers here, we've got the rectangle in front of us, which is spaced out ready for the hovering manoeuvres, but you'll notice on the ends, 10 metres out from the yellow marker, the close yellow marker, to the right hand side and the left hand side are two orange markers. You can only just see them in the long grass there. That aids your approach for the top hat. If you get in line with that and fly in on the manoeuvre, that helps guide you to keep you on line, so we're the right depth for the manoeuvre. So it's a reference point there. It's very important to practice and have these set out when you're at your own flying field. You can get some flags, or these are little doggy cones, training cones. Very useful because they don't blow away. They stay there quite nicely even in the wind. What you'll see, the helicopter is positioned out in front of us. We would normally have a marker there in terms of sprayed circle for a takeoff landing area. The grass is really soggy and horrible at the moment, so I haven't sprayed anything there. But that's our takeoff and landing point. So after each manoeuvre, hovering manoeuvre, we can come back and land in that point. And we want to make sure that we land in a controlled manner. If it's not absolutely in the same point, as long as it's controlled and safe, that's good. But we're really aiming for 1 to 2 metres from that takeoff landing point. If it's going halfway across the rectangle when you land, that's not really a good enough control that we're expecting. So let's now spool up.
Motor on.
We're spooling up here, letting the blades come up to speed before we do anything. Don't rush to take off prior to being up to speed. And then we want a nice vertical lift, so balance the helicopter, and we're going to come up nice and smoothly. And we're going to come up to skids, just above skid's eye level, and we want to try and hold that. Now it's a bit blustery today, so you see the helicopter bobbling slightly. Even if it's doing that, as long as it's in control and held in the right place, then that's what we're looking for. There's a gust of wind, just bringing it back down. That's not going to fail your test, but having that good control and keeping it around about that mean average skid's eye level point. Okay, now we're going to fly forwards to the front of the square, or the rectangle I should say, and we're going to hover. And we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds hover, showing we can hover. And then we're now going along as if we're on a glass tabletop, and we're going out to the left-hand cone. And we're going to hover it out there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to come back skid's eye level to the closer cone, trying to keep in line with the cones, a nice stop on the closer cone, and the 4-second hover. 3, 4, then it flies diagonally forwards back to where we started. Don't rush it. Get it back out to where it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. A definite stop there. We don't want to be getting there and moving straight to the next point. Controlling our altitude there. Skids eye level, mast over that yellow cone. 2, 3, 4. Along the line to the front orange cone. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going across to the centre. If you're slightly off the cone, as long as it's controlled and you're in the vicinity within a metre or two of the cone, that's good. We don't want to be moving around a lot, chasing it. We want to try and find the point what we're aiming for. And now we're coming back after our required hover time, back to our takeoff landing point. Get back here, stop and hover. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't rush. And then smoothly down. We want to kiss the ground. We don't want to impact the ground. And there we are. That completes the bow tie. Are you ready, Ron?
I am.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to hand over. I'm Buddy, but I'm going to hand over to Ron, and he can have a go. And I'll just helpfully comment as we go round. Whatever happens, it doesn't matter. This is all about learning to create the manoeuvre to pass the test. Are you ready?
I am.
So passing over to you.
Ready.
Centre stick, motor on, let that come up to speed. It's leaning slightly, but don't worry, it's nice and stable. Don't overreact with the sticks. And then when you're ready. So we do our vertical lift off, just above skid's eye level. Excellent. And where you hit that point now, that's your reference point for your altitude. 2, 3, 4. That's good. Heading to the front. You can see that we're getting a little bit of wind gust there. Don't worry about that. The main thing is not to panic. Don't stress over it. As long as you're in control, we're not looking for, absolutely perfect hovering in these conditions. We are going to allow for a little bit of bounce. Okay, 4 seconds to the left-hand side. I'm chatting, so I'm probably not counting 4 very accurately. Now, I would say I did the same. It's very slightly further forward than the cone, but I'm happy with that because it's stable, okay? That's good, and it's within the area of the cone. 2, 3, 4. Make sure your tail is in line with the yellow cone. What we're looking for here is we don't want you turning the tail towards yourself, because that makes it easier. This is testing all the angles. Holding it there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. And then we're going to fly forwards diagonally to the front there. Be careful not to get too low. It doesn't matter if you bobble, but if you come down and stay low and you don't show any sort of course to adjust it or correction. Yes, correct. It shows that you're not really focusing on what you're doing. Okay, so concentrate there. 2, 3, 4, and now diagonally back to the yellow cone. Same again, that's just wind gust. It's quite choppy. It doesn't seem like it from here, but it is. And be careful not to let it get higher and higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then flying forward. You're demonstrating really good control here. Excellent. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it just goes sideways into the centre of the front cones. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now coming back to our takeoff landing point. Now notice it's a bit low there. Bring that back up. As long as you react to it, I'm happy. And be careful because we didn't really have a nice stop there. Just lift it back up, back to skid's eye level, okay, and hold it. And when you get back there, get stationary. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now land. Keep it the same as the rest. Excellent. Motors off.
Motor off.
Well done. That was really, really good. Really good. Yes, we got some wind bobble. The only real thing there is practice to get it over the cones, but that's where you were is a good pass. I'm happy with that. The only thing I would say is be careful. There were times when you stayed low.
Yes.
When you went, and if it, as I say, if it bobbles up and comes back down, but you catch it and bring it up, it shows that you're reacting to it.
Yeah,
even if the wind conditions are quite rough.
It's surprising how much in hovering the wind can cause it to bump. I mean, it's very it can be affected more than I thought it would in the hovering.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is a good day for practice. It's good to practice in the wind. You never know what you're going to get with your test. Now, the other thing with that is head speed on the helicopter.
Yes.
Most people think that if it's windy, you need more head speed. Not necessarily. The blades will have a happy point, and what you want to do is dial the head speed usually down. Most people are running 1800 plus on their 3D machines. We could be looking at 1500. 14.5, 15, 16. We're running about 17. If you were to dial that down a little bit more, you probably find that won't bounce as much, and it's deceiving. Okay, that's the bow tie.